These are the things that we really value. Of course, we do value performances and we do value runs and wickets and catches and all of those things. But, getting them to feel that, they're not going to be judged harshly just because they've done badly. What they do, and I think that cricket players or in that environment, cricket is seen as something that they do and not who they are. For me, that is, a large part of leadership is really about creating that environment where people feel valued for who they are and not just for what they do or what they bring to you. It's not just a transactional relationship. I think for me that creating that kind of environment is really important. I think it just allows people to flower, it allows people to grow, it allows people to relax, it allows people to enjoy themselves, as well as pushes them in those kind of environments. So, and I think the other thing I've learned in my experience really has been a lot of leadership in those kind of environments is about collaboration. It's not about a leader sitting there and just giving advice or his views, running the whole show. It's about how can you get everyone to collaborate? How can you get everyone to contribute? How can you create an environment so that people feel like they want to contribute in that environment? They want their voices to be heard, or they feel that their voices can be heard. They feel that they're being listened to. I think if you're able to do that, I find that obviously the collective intelligence of a whole group, right? I mean, sitting in a team and we're discussing strategy or tactics, I truly believe that the collective intelligence of the group is much better than the intelligence of just me and Rohit sitting there or me and the captain. If we are the ones going to be driving everything, then I think, we're not going to get the best out of the group. So how do you create? And that's not easy. I think it's easier said than done sometimes in theory. But actually trying to get that out in public, in an environment, is the real challenge. Because people sometimes don't open up easily, or they don't feel comfortable opening up in those environments. And I always tell a lot of our younger players that you don't need to earn the right to say something. Just because you're a young player, you don't need to score as many runs as Virat Kohli to say something. The very fact that you are in this environment means that you've earned the right to say something and that there is value in what you're going to say. So for me, it's that. I think, a large part of my experiences of leadership, if I can put it in a nutshell, about creating a safe and secure and professional environment, and also then getting a level of collaboration and a buy-in from the group of people that you're working with. For me, these are the two really important things in terms of my experiences of coaching teams.
I recently saw this funny story about Sehwag recalling when he was captaining the side and Kumble and Anil and Baji were bowling from both sides, and he wanted to get one of them to rest so he could bring Zahir in for a short spell, and neither of them were willing to do it. And now he had to go to Sachin and ask him to intervene. So the context here is, all teams have, very different individuals with very different personalities. And how do you bring all of these, different personalities and get them to function as a high performing team, right? Because these are alpha males of their own right. And so how have you managed to do that as a captain, as a coach? How do you make sure that the dominance of a particular player, like you said, right? The young player should not feel that he doesn't have the right to speak. How do you manage that whole team dynamic and get everybody to perform as a unit?
So, yeah, it's a great question, Aruna. I think one of the things, again, just from my experience in cricket teams and learning, is that people sometimes say that you need to treat everyone the same and everyone should be treated equally. I actually slightly disagree with that. I think you have to treat people slightly differently to be able to manage them in these kind of environments. And by differently, I mean, like there's certain non-negotiables that you have to agree as a group and as a team. There's no doubt about that. That there's certain, and we do that. I mean, there are certain, whatever they may be in a team environment. It could be a thing of punctuality, or it could be some rules around how you use your cell phones. It could be certain habits at practice. There could be certain non-negotiables that we all agree on, and then everyone does that It could be fitness parameters. Or there's certain non-negotiables that we all agree on that everyone's going to do, and everyone is going to be treated equally in those particular non-negotiables. But those are very few, and those are few things. But in the other part of it, what I've learned, especially with some of the top players, is to give them space. Is to allow them to have that space in that environment to be able to bring out the best in themselves. A lot of these guys are very experienced players. They know what brings them success. They've succeeded in the past. They know the kind of preparation they need to do to succeed. They know the mindset required to be able to bring their best selves onto a cricket field and to be able to perform. And so in that space, we give them a lot of space and individuality and say, okay, we will let you make decisions on how you want to do certain things to be able to get your best when the team needs you or when you need to contribute to the team. And that could mean a lot of optional practice sessions. So we might say, look, if you feel you don't need to practice or you need to practice only so much, you can do that. If you feel that you want to practice and you want to go back to the room because you feel you're really tired today, then we give people that space. We, in terms of their own tactics and strategy, right? If I feel that, I might have a view on how we need to counter a particular kind of bowler. But if one of these guys come to me and say, no, I think I want to do it this way, and if he has a good reason enough for it and I feel he's practiced it, I'll say, all the best, go ahead and do it. And even if it doesn't come off, that's fine. I'm okay with it because, we've had a discussion about it. I know you've practiced it. I know you're clear in your thinking. Go ahead and do it. So I found a lot of times with a lot of the top players is what they want is, of course, there's some structure. And in a team environment, when you're working with teams, you need some things that you need to structure very carefully. But otherwise, you just need to give people a lot of freedom to be able to express themselves and do their thing. And I think what I have realized is that when you are able to give people that sense of freedom and the sense of ownership, they really come back and contribute back to the group and feel part of the group and feel like contributing back into the group. Because I think in some ways, they feel that you respect their intelligence, you respect their knowledge, you respect their know-how. The fact that I'm telling one of them, I trust you to prepare really well for this game because I know you know how to do it and I'm trusting you that you will do it right. I think, firstly puts the onus back on some of these players and forces them to really, think about these things and get it right. So yes, it's a combination of some non-negotiable rules. Arun, I think, you have to have some non-negotiable rules in any team environment. You can't just have people do whatever they want. But in general, I'd say my non-negotiable rules are probably 20%, 30%, and the 70% of them are, through dialogue, conversation, freedom, flexibility. And I think that, for me, I've found is allowed a lot of these top players to come together and feel part of the group.
Rahul, you've seen technology transform this game in so many different dimensions, right? I'm going to ask you to do the difficult one here, which is, all of these folks in the audience, they're all grappling with, obviously digital transformation, significantly impacting the businesses in a good way in most cases where the opportunity is getting greater, there are better ways of engaging with customers. There's artificial intelligence that's, making its mark now on businesses. What is your advice for people on this front? Because obviously technology is in everybody's lives today, but if you had to draw panels from how you've seen technology help the game evolve, what's your kind of view for the audience here and how they should think about, moving very quickly to be lock and step with this?
Yeah, I think technology has changed the game. It's changed the game of cricket from the time I started to. I've actually got it's been a great opportunity for me to see the whole almost, like from the time when I started in 96, there was, we barely get good enough video quality of television coverage to what we are seeing today, and I think there's no doubt that technology has transformed the game, the way we view the game, the way we consume the game, the way we play the game, the way we strategize the game. And I think it's the more and more technology that we're using, the more and more data that we're collecting, it's only getting better and better. And I think that only people who are willing to embrace it and stay in touch with it and to see its value are are going to stay in tune with the times or in tune with the competition. And I don't think that. Look, I think so. You've got to be a little bit careful with data and technology, especially in what the kind of things we do. In cricket, we're getting a lot of data and technology now, and people are collecting all sorts of data. And I think sometimes there is a lot of noise in that as well. But I think the real critical one for me is the people who can pick up the signal in a lot of this noise. There's a lot of technology, a lot of data that's being collected, which I think in some ways um, is maybe not necessary. What is the usable part of that data and technology that you can actually bring to the table? And who are the people who are going to be able to? So I still think there's going to be room for people who are going to be able to understand technology. So technology is going to be available, I think, to everyone. Technology, data, all of these things. Which are the people who are going to be able to use it best, use it smartly? And that's what we are constantly trying to do. We are constantly trying to look at. I mean, I think just if you look at the way we prepare for teams, the way we practice, today so much of it is driven by technology. The ability to pick up. I mean, just to give you a small example, when we're doing a review of our games, so we're picking up every single ball and what is the length that it was pitched, what is the line it was bowled at. We can look at a spell of a bowler and we can say that, look, this is where you were, this was a plan, this was a strategy, these were the tactics. And this is where you executed really well, but this is where you didn't go particularly well. What was the reason? What can we do to help you? So it really helps performances if you're willing to take it positively. There are a lot of people, and I won't mention names, but there are a lot of people who will get intimidated by technology. And I think they get intimidated by technology because it sometimes shows them or it exposes them a little bit. And I think the guys who are very good at this and who are really going forward and are the ones who are recognizing the value of this and how it can help them perform better as individuals and as teams, and able to confront it. Because it can be hard, I think sometimes, when you're watching it, you can say, yeah, I can tell somebody, I think you didn't bowl in the right areas, or you should have bowled the ball a bit fuller and you bowled too short. And he can come back to me and say, no, that's what you feel, but I think I bowled correctly and all that. And I say, no, look at the numbers, man. The numbers there's no lying in this. And it's hard, people sometimes get that, a bit challenged by that. And so, yeah, but I think it's becoming critically important. It's becoming a great opportunity to grow and develop and become better. And the people who embrace it and the people who take it on and the people who understand where to cut what's the noise, what's the signal, I think in the future are going to be the ones who are going to benefit from it.
I said all our audience are going to be listening from our experts today on exactly this topic, with a lot of data that everybody is dealing with and advent of artificial intelligence. How can they make sense of this and how can they use that to delight their customers? But sorry, I have to ask this question. There's a great example, like you said, of somebody like Shane Watson, who is known to follow or when he was facing an incoming ball and people used to target him in that space. Right now, was there an instance where you had some video footage shown to you, a gap in your armory? I mean, there's very little that we could see, the way you were dead blocking Shoaib Akhtar's thunderbolts to the point where he was probably frustrated, like, how can somebody just stop me like this? But was there something that you saw in video footage that you adapted to and said, okay, that's a gap that I need to do a better job at? Just curious.
Oh, most certainly, and when I first came into international cricket, I was very strong because growing up in Bangalore and growing up on Matty through the onside. on the kind of teams you want to lead, where do you see your teams, reflecting on how would you like your team to look in the long term, but what are the behaviors that I need to inculcate today in this team, or what do I need the behaviors that I can do today that might help me a year down the line or 6 months down the line. So I think it's a bit of both, Arun. I think you've got to have that balance, really.
No, as a professional who mentored you along the way, how big a difference have they made in shape?
Surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, I think, is really important. I think at times we tend to surround ourselves with people that we like, people that we know, people that we kind of trust, people that we're comfortable with. And I think what I've learned over the years is that of course it's important to have those people as well, because they give you great support and who I know are going to give me good, honest advice. And in whatever I did in my cricketing career, I knew that irrespective of whether I was doing well or badly, I knew I could get a really good, honest feedback from them. So, and some of them can be just your teammates, and I think that's why surrounding yourself with people who challenge you and push you is really important, and I think being part of a team which had the likes of but we challenged and pushed each other, and I can remember there were some pretty tough conversations amongst us, and and I think I would not have become anywhere near the player I was without the support of those guys. Firstly, just respecting them and watching them bat and having them as partners, but also for some of their brutal and honest advice. In Bangalore, in our traffic, but you have to pick your moments, you pick your times, and yeah. So I think just really spending more time at home, I think, has been probably one of the big boons of not being involved as a professional, as an Indian coach for a while now.
And I'm assuming you're keeping that road rage ad out of the picture while you're driving in Bangalore.
Oh yeah. So sometimes you do feel like that in the city, man.
Trust me, I live in Bangalore and I know the feeling there. Anything that's been on your bucket list that you're going to pick up now that you have a lot more time?
Not really.
Sorry, out of syllabus questions.
Yeah, no, I think I'd like to visit a lot of cities, and I love sort of visiting sort of cities in India and abroad. So me and my wife, we went to London in May, spent some time there. It was really nice to just spend a week in the city and walk around and things. So yeah. So yeah, I think that was really fun. So there are a few cities around the world, maybe, or even in India, that we probably haven't done enough of. So over the years, I've traveled a lot into a lot of cities, but you've traveled there as a cricketer, you go to the ground, you go to the hotel, you go to the airport, and that's all I've seen of those cities. But sometimes you want to go back and be able to experience some of some of those cities a little bit more. So, so yeah, maybe that's stuff that I might think about doing.
So, Rahul, thank you so much for your time. For the audience, if I had to recap this amazing conversation, what can I say? Rahul has embodied discipline,